Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. So, in today's talk, I really want to emphasize on self actualization. Um, just feel safe here. This is a safe place, and I really want to talk about our attitudes and health. So, I've never done this ever before, and this is the first time I'm talking about it. If you have any questions, please comment below. So I would like to start from our attitude. That is just like our physical body that requires constant conditioning to stay fit. And when we do an exercise and after that we find ourselves with this lactic acid, pain, sore body, right? In the same way, when we work on our mental health, we find ourselves in a dilemma, and because there's so much to change it, right? We're asking us to change our attitudes. So we want to encourage you to really work at staying positive and optimistic, and we all will have our fair share of challenges, and many of them will feel unfair, undeserved. However, what really needs determination is our life's direction to, um, to how we respond to these challenges. So, how we respond to hardships, how we respond to heartbreaks, how we respond to disappointments, how we respond to failures, and we often like how we fuel for joy, how we fuel for compassion, how we fuel ourselves, replenish ourselves for success. So we might sometimes find ourselves in not being in a proper connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our faith might be in crisis, and then how we come back, how we ask the right questions to come back. So, by conditioning our attitude to be positive, we will experience higher levels of health, happiness, and we experience higher levels of faith too, connections with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala too. So one of the best ways to condition your attitude is to regularly read positive things, read the du'as, and read to understand yourself. Whatever material you want to read to understand yourself. Listen to inspiring books, podcasts, attach with there are so many speakers out there now. Thank you to social media that we can connect to the kind we like. So let's dive in this topic. So, what is a positive mental attitude towards having a good, healthy health? So, the optimal health really begins with a positive mental attitude. And there's a growing body of evidence that the thoughts and emotions we experience on a regular basis, they really direct our health in that way. And just like our grandparents have told us, or all these, they tell us like how life can be full of events that are beyond our control, but we do have full control over our response to those events. So you will be much happier, much healthier, and much more successful if you can adopt to a positive mental attitude rather than a pessimistic view. Now, studies using various scales to assess attitude have shown that individuals with pessimistic attitude have poorer health, prone to depression, they are more frequent users of medical and mental health care system, they exhibit more decline in memory and brain function. Along with aging, they have lower survival rate compared to optimists, and I can probably put reference down there to this study. So one of the people who completed a survey at two time points between ages of 51 and 56, and then ages of 63 and 67, the results show that people with negative attitudes were 7.16 times more likely to be depressed, 10 years later in life. So, determine your level of optimism. You can do that by taking some questionnaires online. There's, a psychologist, Martin Seligman's questionnaire. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly or not. Then, attitude, personality, emotions, and immune function. The importance of attitude to human health has been demonstrated in the links of brain, emotions, and immune system, and how these three are connected. So, research in the field of psychoneuroimmunology indicates that every part of the immune system is connected to the brain in some way, either via direct nervous tissue connection or through complex language of chemical mediators, hormones, and neurotransmitters, all of them. So, what scientists are discovering is that every thought we have, every emotion we generate, every tiny minute, half a second of a thought we generate from our heart or from our brain, it sends a message to the immune system. And that either enhances the immune system ability to function properly or not. So, a simplistic view in that positive emotions such as joy, happiness, optimism, it tends to boost the immune systems, whereas the negative emotions, they kind of depressing the immune system. So, studies examining immune function in optimistic versus pessimistic approaches, they have basically significantly demonstrated a better immune function in those people who have optimistic viewpoints and perceptions of life. So the immune system is kind of critical to preventing cancers if emotions and attitudes were risk factors for cancer, like a lot of depression, sadness, pessimism, self guiltiness, or I would not say self-sabotage. That would be different, that you can control it, but something which you automatically just go deeper and deeper, and then it becomes a habit of constantly having the bad thoughts. That's where a depressive or pessimistic attitude is permanently formed. So, just as research has identified attitude traits that are associated with impaired immune function, it has also identified a collection of immune power traits. These include a positive mental attitude, simple and easy, an effective strategy for dealing with stress and capacity to effectively deal with life's traumas and challenges. I will highlight a little bit on that, and I will highlight in the upcoming video of how attitude and self-actualization can help in having a sound body and mind and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So before I dive into the Maslow's hierarchy, I just want to talk about a self-actualized person or self-actualized people, because the Maslow's hierarchy can be challenged through the lens of Quran and an Islamic viewpoint, and that I will challenge in the end of the video. But I just want to emphasize more on self-actualized people. So who are they? So they perceive reality more accurately and effectively than others and are more comfortable with it. They just accept reality as soon as they can. And they have an unusual ability to detect the fake, the dishonest, the vile. They judge experiences and people and things correctly and efficiently. So they are not wishful thinking wishfully, or they're not into a dilemma that something, will just appear out of nowhere. They rather work towards their goals and their own strengths and possibilities, limitations. They know about it. They're aware of that, and this self-awareness enables them to clearly identify their values, their goals, desires and feelings, and they're not frightened by uncertainty. So they're kind of prepared pre-planners. And self-actualized people, they have an acceptance of themselves, others, and the nature, and they create harmony between these. So they can accept their own human shortcomings, like, um, for example, I'm not good at a certain skill. I cannot write efficiently, so they're going to work hard towards that. And they do not have an absolute lack of guilt, shame, sadness, anxiety, over defensiveness, but they do not experience these feelings to unnecessary or unrealistic degrees. If they think they need to take help of their self defenses, they will. If they think that they need to correct themselves, they will. And when they do feel guilty or regretful, they do something about it, right? They would go up to a person and say, I did this bad thing to you, apologies, and generally they will feel bad about discrepancies between what is and what ought to be, right? So it just means like having a strong reality based view, right? Then self actualized people are relatively spontaneous in their behavior and far more spontaneous than that in their inner life and thoughts and impulses. So they seldom allow convention to keep them from doing anything. They consider important, what is basic. And I would say that if they have a problem, they have a mindset of solving the problem, solve problem solving orientation towards life instead of an orientation centered on themselves, and being a perpetuator of the problem. So they commonly have a mission in life, and it's just naturally driven, that's how they are. And some problem outside themselves that enlist much of their energies, they would readily go and try to correct it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying the self-actualized people, they really are a kind of a detective based people. They would dig in, find the truth, and try to clear your mind and your consciousness, know what you're living in is falsehood. It's not the real thing. Here I've got facts, and look at this. So in general, this mission is unselfish and is involved with the philosophical and ethical, moral values. You can say they're driven by ethical moral values. And self-actualized people, they have a quality of detachment. So whenever they feel like there is a need of getting detached from the world and spending more time with themselves, they will simply do it. And it's often really possible for them to remain undisturbed by things which really disturb other people normally. So they would carry on, they would keep on doing on their work like the turtle in the turtle and rabbit race. And they're not really disturbed by what, people would say behind their backs. And the meaning of their life is just self-decision, self-governing, being an active, responsible, self-disciplined, deciding person rather than helpless pawn ruled by others. So focusing on yourself really helps build that mental attitude, which have an effect on the whole body and the whole immune system and natural health and other systems of the body. So self-actualized people, they have wonderful capacity to appreciate gain, um, and whatever they gain, like basic pleasures of life, they are really grateful for the nature around them, for their children, for their parents, for their experiences in life, for traveling, for whatever. They learn from everyone. I even learn from a toddler. I sometimes feel like a small child has more uh, knowledge than me in emotion regulation, like how sometimes they accept so many things. So self-actualized people commonly have peak experiences, and there are intense emotions in which they transcend themselves, and that is possible through meditation, through tasawwuf, or tazkiya, through after um, a prayer, sitting, pondering about your own actions and your own relationship with people, with how much ill you feel about others, if there is something, what efforts you put in a relationship to make it work. A relationship needs really it needs effort, it needs communication, and it won't just flourish um, being a relationship. You have to put in effort. So I think then self-actualized people, they have deep feelings of identification and sympathy, empathy towards others and themselves, and affection for others. And in spite of occasional anger, impatience, or feeling disgusted, they would understand why the other person is doing this. That's empathy, right? So self-actualized people, they have deeper and more profound interpersonal relationships, and than most of the adults in our society, because they work towards relationships and not necessarily uh, deeper than children. Because children, they mostly, when they love somebody, they just wholeheartedly love them. They do not accept anything negative about a person they love, no matter if that person is negative, because they love so deeply, so truthfully, so honestly. And so self-actualized people are capable of more closeness, greater love, and more perfect identification, more erasing of ego boundaries than other people would consider possible. And one consequence is that self-actualized people, they have especially deep ties with themselves and with other individuals. They have small circle of friends. They have more connection with God, because they have clear one-to-one communication. They have no ill feelings in their heart, so they feel the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala too. And they tend to be kind with almost everyone, and they speak realistically. They don't speak harshly. They wait for their turn, and so they are not who's very critical of others, and pretentious, pompous, or cocky, or self-inflated. So self-actualized people, they are democratic in the deepest possible way, um, but they are friendly towards everyone, regardless of class, status quo, education, whatever, the political beliefs, race, color, creed, their nationality. They don't look, it doesn't matter to them. What matters is values. They believe it is possible to learn something from everyone, and they are humble in the sense of being aware of how little they know in comparison with what could be known and what is known by others. SubhanAllah, this reminds me of Surah Abasa, where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was trying to listen to the elite class of Quraysh, and thinking they might revert to Islam. But then when the blind man, Ammatul Rajul, he came, and the blind man came, and he was from a poor status, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who love him, and he didn't care about the elite's money, he didn't care about their status, he didn't care about their creed, tribe, whatever. And then Surah Basa was revealed on him. So we have so many examples from the stories of Sahaba, prophets, and our Quran. And self-actualized people, they are strongly ethical, moral, like I talked about it. Their notions of right and wrong and good and evil are often not the conventional ones. It's like Khidr alayhi salam. Khidr alayhi salam was, he was doing so many wrong things, which apparently looked wrong, but he was doing the right things. So, for self-actualized people, I think the perfect example for Quran would be Khidr alayhi salam, because they are these are the people who live in a different reality. They live in a different spiritual realm. They are so self-disciplined, keen, and unhostile. They have an unhostile sense of humor. Why am I talking about this? Because they don't hurt other people at making jokes at them and hurting people by calling out inferior names or whatever, and they don't make fun of others in general or themselves, and they have a good sense of humor, a humor that would bring a smile on their faces, but it's intrinsic to the situation. It's a thoughtful humor. It just arises spontaneously. It has some, science behind it, and it's not based on humiliating the other person. So, self actualized people are highly imaginative, they're creative, they're innovative. And so, when I'm talking about Maslow's hierarchy, it just generally, puts the basic physiological needs at the bottom. Then it's um, followed by the safety needs, then love and belongingness, self esteem, cognitive needs, aesthetic needs, self actualization. Now, um, when I talk through an Islamic lens, I would actually um, think about coming from self actualization, aesthetic needs, cognitive needs, self esteem, love and belongingness, safety needs, physiological needs, because I really don't think a person needs to be self actualized, realizing his full capability or defining his purpose, his, understanding, curiosity, exploration, his confidence and self esteem is not emerged from food, drink, oxygen, protection from potentially dangerous objects, being threatened physically, psychologically, or if there's nobody to love him, his parents. Prophet Muhammad SAW was an orphan, and we have so many orphan stories from the Quran. And then let's look at uh, story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, when he left Bibi Hajra and he left Ismail alayhi salam in the middle of the desert, um, fulfilling the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which prioritizes physiological and safety needs as a foundation, it's just challenged by Ibrahim alayhi salam, and his unwavering faith and trust in a higher purpose led him to, leave Hajar, Bibi Halima, and Ismail in the desert with no immediate provision for a couple of days until he didn't even know if there would be enough water or not for Ismail alayhi salam, and with no immediate um, basic needs. Yeah, there was nothing. So this act was driven by a divine command and a belief in his purpose beyond the material survival, just like we see today in Palestinians, right? So the story, it really highlights how spiritual conviction and higher ideas, they can sometimes connect you with a higher purpose without having any material um, needs fulfilled. And I suggest that for some individuals, a pursuit of a higher cause or spiritual fulfillment can take precedence over when most fundamental needs are not met. So it's a powerful reminder for gaining strength if anybody has faith in their crisis. They're in a crisis of faith, or um, the human capacity to finding deeper meanings which are beyond the physical necessities They can come from so many stories from the Quran, so many people living now in war zone areas, Ukraine, Palestine, the third world countries where they don't have water. They don't know if they're gonna get food today or not. But their purpose is defined. They're not cheating. They're not unethical. They are moral beings, and they are fighting, for themselves and their families to have a halal living, unforbidden living. So I think I'm going to continue this talk in the next videos, and tell me if you like this topic and what more you want to study about the mental attitude towards having healthier body and healthier mind and healthier soul. So this was it for today, and I hope you have a good day and take care of your bodies and mind and thoughts. So, ma salama.